Camouflage. Яке оснащення можна віднести до Survival Essentials? Я Олена Чекрижова, вчителька. Це канал Армійська англійська, на якому сьогодні ми проводимо лексичну розпаковку військового рюкзака і вчимося розповідати про його вміст і називати предмети англійською. У попередніх відео ми з вами вже говорили про форму та одяг військового, а також детально розбирали назви та функції захисного спорядження. А сьогодні наша тема – військовий рюкзак та його вміст. Будемо вивчати, як описати англійською ті речі, які ви з собою носите. Під час підготовки до цього уроку я провела невелике опитування серед військових моїх студентів та друзів і зробила висновок, що окрім загального традиційного переліку необхідних речей, вони мають в своїх рюкзаках різне. А вже ж, наповнення залежить від роду військ, типу підрозділу, посади, характеру завдання, ситуації та обставин, сезону, персональних вподобань і потреб та багатьох інших чинників. Але є базовий набір, що міститься в наплічнику військового найчастіше. Саме про нього і поговоримо. Кажуть, що ще за часів давнього Риму солдати носили з собою сумки, зроблені зі шкіри, у яких переносили їжу, зброю та інші предмети. Довгий час солдати не мали рюкзаків у тому вигляді, як зараз, а носили невеликі сумки або ранці, бо більшість essential items, необхідних речей, які були їм потрібні, переміщувались на повозках on a wagon, які слідували за військом. Коли було винайдено вогнепальну зброю, firearms, у солдатів з'явилася необхідність мати при собою не тільки rifles and muskets, а також ammunition and cleaning equipment. І, відповідно, необхідність носити більше оснащення самостійно. Перші військові рюкзаки, які з'явилися в Америці всередині 18-го сторіччя, було виготовлено з листового металу – sheet metal. І вони мали wooden backing. Зрозуміло, що вони були не дуже зручні. Тож солдати часто загортали свої речі в ковдру і носили на плечі. Тому the first military backpack і називався rucksack від німецького спина та слова sack – сумка, мішок. Наприкінці Другої світової війни з'явився так званий field pack, який мав два відділення – one to store rations or equipment and the other for weaponry. З того часу моделі та матеріали для військових рюкзаків невпинно покращувались та удосконалювались. Було створено сотні різних модифікацій, і в сучасних арміях є вимоги до рюкзаків, які можуть носити військовослужбовці in terms of size – розміру, shape – форми, durability – міцності and color – кольору. Розгляньмо, які варіанти військових сумок та рюкзаків є зараз. A duffel bag – речовий мішок. A tube-shaped cloth bag. A bum bag або a butt bag – сумка на пояс. Molly rucksack – рюкзак з системою Моллі. A combat sustainment pack – додатковий тактичний рюкзак. Невеликий рюкзак, що підходить для різних завдань. An assault pack – штурмовий рюкзак. A mission pack – рюкзак на одне завдання, на 2-3 дні. An Alice pack – all-purpose lightweight individual carrying equipment – рюкзак за типом універсального, полегшеного, індивідуального, розвантажувального обладнання. A Bergen – великий військовий рюкзак, понад 50 літрів, що використовують військові Британії. An attachable pouch – підсумок. A survival kit – набір для виживання. Увага! Різниця між military backpacks та assault packs в тому, що military backpacks – рюкзаки для перенесення всіх речей для довгого періоду часу, а assault packs – призначені для коротших періодів або навіть завдань на один день. Тоді як military pack може вміщувати до 96 літрів, assault packs містять лише around 20 liters. І перш ніж ми перейдемо до розбору вмісту, ви маєте підписатися на цей канал, якщо дивитесь наше відео, а також перевірити, чи поставили ви лайк та дзвіночок, щоб отримувати всі сповіщення про оновлення на каналі. Необхідно в рюкзаку їжа, food – це a field ration – сухпайок. Можна зустріти також назви combat ration, food packet, ration pack, battle ration, meal ready to eat, MRE, або IMP – individual meal pack. Також це усілякі protein bars та energy drinks, які ви так любите. Щоб нагрівати їжу, в рюкзаку є a flameless ration heater – безполуменевий нагрівач. У наплічнику військового неодмінно містяться речі, що забезпечують роботу зброї та зв'язок – weapons and communication. GPS unit, satellite phone, a compass, a map, binoculars, an extra battery – додаткова батарея або powerbank, a radio або a walkie-talkie – радіостанція або рація, a gun cleaning kit – набір для чищення зброї, magazine pouches – підсумки для магазинів, ammo pouches, a signal mirror – сигнальне дзеркало, night vision gear, NVGs – night vision goggles, а також усілякі інші речі, необхідні для зв'язку, знаходження, знешкодження та знищення ворога. Survival essentials – це, по-перше, a first aid kit – аптечка, a tourniquet – турнікет, а також оснащення, що забезпечує гідрацію, hydration packs – гідраційні пакети, a hydration bladder – питна система для рюкзака, a flask – фляга, також її називають a canteen, a sleeping bag – спальний мішок, an emergency blanket – термоковдра, matches – сірники, a hand or foot heating pad – зігрівальні елементи для рук чи ніг, a headlamp або a head torch – налобний ліхтарик, a tactical flashlight – тактичний ліхтарик. У рюкзаку можуть бути різні матеріали для спорудження shelter – укриття та camouflaging – маскування, a tarp – брезентовий тент, a tent – намет, duct tape – скотч і зустрічка, a rope – мотузка, a bungee cord – еластичний шнур з гачками, a rain jacket – дощовик. Маскувальна фарба для обличчя – це Camouflage Face Paint – CFP. Extra Clothing – додатковий набір одягу. Sunscreen – крем для засмаги. Лопатка – це an entrenching tool або E-tool. Personal items – a knife. A multi-tool – є два варіанти написання цього слова. A mug – кружка. A ziploc bag – зіплок-пакет, поліетиленовий пакет на застібці, або a waterproof bag для мап та предметів, які не можна мочити. Що я пропустила? Напишіть мені в коментарях. Кожен ваш коментар служить для підтримки та просування нашого освітнього контенту. Ну і мені приємно. А ще обов'язково порекомендуйте армійську англійську вашим знайомим, які вивчають або планують вивчати англійську. Вони будуть вдячні вам за це. Може, не просто зараз, але будуть. Бо дуже скоро English стане обов'язковою вимогою для військовослужбовців України. І щоб ми могли робити більше корисних уроків і матеріалів з військової англійської, ви можете підтримати наш проєкт не тільки вподобайкою та коментарем, але й фінансово. Усі посилання в описі. Я Олена Чекрижова, вчителька, яка мріє, щоб українське військо опанувало англійську мову і змогло напряму комунікувати з партнерами та колегами з-за кордону, вести перемовини, залучати більше підтримки, навчатися та ділитися досвідом знищення ворога. І в наступному відео я буду озброювати вас граматикою. Скоро побачимось!
Fake news.
Hello, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Sam.
And this is Fake News, Fact and Fiction from BBC Learning English. In the program today, we're talking about images, and we meet viral image debunker Paulo Ordoveza.
Things that you need to look out for when you're looking at a viral image. You want to look for any signs of manipulation, telltales that it's been edited.
Before we get to that though, Sam, I'm looking forward to your vocabulary session. What are you going to be telling us about today?
Well, today, Hugo, I am talking about the world of deceit and the words con, scam, phishing, and hoax. There have always been people who want to take our money, and the internet and social media have provided criminals with different opportunities to try and con us. The verb to con means to deceive, to trick, or to cheat, and the noun a con describes the method of tricking. For example, on social media, you sometimes see competition with fantastic prizes like a car or a boat, and all you have to do is like the post and share it to have a chance of winning. Many of these competitions are cons. They're not real and are designed to get us to share personal information, which many people will do because they want to win the prize. But no one ever wins, and the people who run the con have collected lots of personal data. The word con dates back to the mid to late 19th century and is a shortened version of confidence man, which was the term for a person who was able to persuade people to give him money in return for a service that was never given and was not what was promised. This was known as a confidence trick or a con trick, and now just a con. A similar word for a con is a scam. Scam is a much newer word though, from the late 1960s, and in most cases it can be used in the same way as a con. Those online competitions are often scams, so be careful and beware of scammers, the people who are trying to trick you. A good piece of advice is, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. A very modern type of scam is phishing. The term was coined in the 1990s and is a variation of the word phishing. The scammers are phishing for your personal details. This is often done through emails, which try to get you to log onto a website that looks like your bank's, but is actually a fake site from which the phishers collect your login details. Another type of scam that has been around for centuries but is also popular on the internet are hoaxes. A hoax is something that has been created to trick you into believing something that isn't true. This could be a fake news story, but hoaxes are also common with photos and videos. Take this one as an example. If someone claims with authority that it's proof of the existence of the creature known as Bigfoot, it's a hoax, because it's just a person in a hairy costume.
Thanks, Sam, and that leads us on nicely to today's topic about images.
Yeah, so there's an old saying that the camera doesn't lie, but I'm not so sure we believe that anymore.
Well, the camera can only record what it sees, so in that case, it can't lie. But what we are told we're seeing in the image is not necessarily what the image actually is.
Yeah, so the camera doesn't lie, but people do.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to put it. And of course, with the digital tools at our fingertips today, we can change, manipulate, or even create a completely digital image that looks like a real photograph.
Yeah, but now we're not talking about just putting a nice filter on our social media selfies, are we?
No, there are a few different ways images are used to tell a different story to the one that was photographed. One thing we see a lot is real images. They're not fake or photoshopped, but they are from a different time or place than the caption states.
Yeah, so the caption on an image can also be misleading in the way it describes what is happening in the photo, particularly if it generates strong emotion.
Yeah, well, here's an example. Look at this picture. And it might make you feel completely different emotions depending on how it's described. Amazing. I saw the police helping an injured protester. Terrible. I saw the police attacking an innocent protester. So what do you think, Sam? Do you think the different captions tell a different story?
Definitely, yes. So those two captions elicit two completely different emotions. But which one is right? Without a wider context, we wouldn't know which one was correct. So that's not the only way images can be misleading. It's not just captions. Images can be cropped, manipulated and edited to add things that were never there, or take away things that were there. In fact, it's so easy to do this now that an aged relative of mine, who shall remain nameless, removed an in-law from a family photo and replaced her with a bush. That photo now hangs in the living room, and unless you really examined it closely, you wouldn't realize at all that someone was missing.
I'm glad I'm not in your family, Sam. Now, most mainstream media organizations are very careful about the images they use and how they're described, particularly if those images have come from members of the public.
On social media, though, anyone can publish an image and say anything about it.
And that's where people like today's guest come in. Paulo Odovesa is a viral image debunker. He's known as PicPedant on Twitter and spends his free time verifying images which seem to him to be not quite right. It's an activity he took up while working as a contractor at NASA. I spoke to him earlier and asked why he does it.
Well, partly I'm just pedantic. I'm a stickler for accuracy, but partly it's also that I get annoyed at seeing digital art, seeing manipulated images passed off as real, and in a sense, it's unfair to the people who made them because you've robbed them of attribution, you've robbed them of context and credit, and I want to see justice done in that sense. But on a grander scale, it's also that small lies can later lead to bigger lies. I've seen cases of viral image purveyors who just grab stuff off Reddit later be cited in bigger contexts, and the damage they can do is amplified significantly by the nature of social media. I've seen people go from historical photos and go into full-blown health conspiracies about the pandemic. I've seen nature photos lead to eco-fascism. So, it's the kind of thing I'd like to see nipped in the bud before it leads to grander, more harmful falsehoods.
So he sees artists' work being stolen without credit, fake and edited images being published as real, and also people who do this using their popularity on social media to promote conspiracy theories and radical action. But how do we know that an image is fake, copied, or misleading? If you do this a lot, you can spot the signs easily. But for those of us with less experience, here are a few tips from PicPedant.
For one thing, there's context. You want to see is this image too good to be true? Is it too lucky? Sometimes a photographer will get lucky, but sometimes that image is manipulated. Also think about what emotions these images are eliciting in you. What are they trying to make you feel or think or do? What is the publisher's aim? Are they trying to make money? Are they trying to become more popular? Are they trying to manipulate your view of the world? And things that you need to look out for when you're looking at a viral image, you want to look for any signs of manipulation, telltales that it's been edited. Sometimes the edges are too blurry. Sometimes the edges are too sharp. Sometimes the light sources are different and you'll see shadows in different directions. Sometimes the perspective will be wrong, or you'll see artifacts of Photoshop clone stamping, or you'll see repeating patterns that indicate that something has been copied.
A few things to look out for there, some technical, some emotional. We've seen throughout this series that many examples of fake news are designed to generate strong emotions, and photos are no different.
Yes, this doesn't mean that every emotional, interesting, or spectacular image is suspicious. The latest baby picture from your family is probably not fake, but with your critical thinking head on, when you see images that make you feel upset, angry, or outraged, it might be worth taking a deep breath and doing a bit of investigating before you think about sharing.
And how do you investigate an image? Here's Paulo Odovesa again with a practical tip.
The first thing I do is plug the image into a reverse image search tool like TinEye or Google Image Search, which has a reverse image search if you click on the little camera icon in the search bar. And that will show you repeat occurrences of the image across various websites and how far back the repetitions go. I have to warn you that the oldest or the largest image are not always necessarily the original image. So you have to be able to tell from context, from the site, if that is actually the photographer or the digital artist's original image. Also, if I found that if you search for the caption, if you do a phrase search by entering the caption in quotes into Google or DuckDuckGo as I use, you might find a Reddit post or some other social media post where the image was first posted or where the image first became popular. On certain photography sites, you might be able to find the metadata for the image, or the EXIF data as it's called. And that will tell you things like what camera was used to take the image, what lens they use, what lens angle, what f-stop, what exposure. But it will also tell you what software the image has been through. Now remember that Photoshop is not necessarily a sign that the image has been manipulated, or at least has been faked, because sometimes a photographer will take an image into Photoshop and do some minor enhancements. That doesn't mean the image has been completely fake, but sometimes it may mean that. Again, you have to consider context.
So search for the caption. That's a good tip.
Yeah, that's also a good thing to do if you see a controversial meme. You know the ones. There's a photograph of a politician or another public figure and a quote next to their image, which is supposed to be something they said or was said about them. Put that quote into a search engine to see what comes up, and you'll be able to see if it's a real quote or something that's made up.
That's very good advice. I do that all the time. And the other good suggestion is to do a reverse image search. Are you familiar with that, Sam?
Yes, so that's where you search using an image rather than text to see if that same image has been used before on the internet. Shall we do a little demonstration?
Yeah, let's do it. So let's take this image. Let's imagine someone has posted this picture online today with the caption, "The media isn't covering this, but there are violent demonstrations outside Parliament. Please share."
Okay, so I'm using a site called TinEye, which is one of the ones Paolo mentioned. I drag the image into the box here, and then I let it do its thing. It then shows me all the examples of this image it has found. You can sort by date and see that this image has been present on the internet since at least 2012. So it can't be from something that happened today. The image is genuine, but the description is misleading.
Thank you, Sam. Very useful tips there. Now, would you please remind us of today's vocabulary?
Yes, of course. So I'm going to start by picking out a word that we've used a lot today, which is manipulate. To manipulate an image means to change it or edit it in some way to deliberately mislead. And as we've discussed, you can also manipulate emotions. Our guest Paolo said that he was pedantic, which I am about grammar, which means being very concerned that things are correct, often things that other people are not that worried about, and that he is a stickler for accuracy. When you are a stickler for something, you expect or demand a certain level of behavior. If you see this phrase, you will see it mostly with the noun accuracy or rules. Two words which mean nearly the same thing are con and scam. These are dishonest schemes designed to trick people and take their money. The people who carry out these schemes are con artists and scammers. Phishing is a type of scam. It's a trick designed to steal your banking information by getting you to log on to a fake website with your real details. And a hoax is a kind of deception, something designed to make you believe something that isn't true.
Thank you, Sam. It's very easy to manipulate images today, and images can be used to manipulate our emotions. So be skeptical, be vigilant, and share safely.
And remember that just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. And if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
In Hong Kong, the trial of media businessman Jimmy Lai begins. Lai faces national security charges, carrying a possible sentence of life in prison. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida condemns North Korea's missile test, which South Korea's military says flew 1,000 kilometers before landing in the sea. Iraqis vote in the first provincial elections in 10 years. Parliamentary elections are planned for 2025. And Kenya and the European Union sign an economic partnership agreement. The deal reduces import taxes and other costs between Europe and the East African nation.
Rapidly transforming societies. That's the only option left, says the UN, after a failure to cut carbon. This is News Review from BBC Learning English. I'm Neil.
And I'm Beth. Make sure you watch to the end to learn vocabulary to talk about the story.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and try the quiz on our website. Now let's hear more about the story.
Countries must reprioritise climate change or the world faces catastrophe. That's what the head of the UN has said ahead of COP27, the climate conference being held in Egypt this month. Scientists say government failures to meet carbon targets will lead to a rise of more than 1.5 degrees. Only radically changing society will save us from climate disaster, they say.
You've been looking at the headlines, Beth. What's the vocabulary?
We have landmark, greenwashing, and warning shots.
This is News Review from BBC Learning English. Let's have a look at our first headline.
This one is from Euronews. What is COP27? Everything you need to know about Egypt's landmark climate conference.
So COP27, which is the annual International Climate Conference, is being described as a landmark. That's the word we're looking at. Right now, Beth, first of all, I want you to think of a famous city, London. When I mention London, what comes to mind?
I think of Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, the London Eye, the Houses of Parliament.
Okay, so these are important, memorable places, buildings, literally marks on the land, landmarks. Is that what we mean here?
Well, they are landmarks, but no, that's not what we're talking about here. So in the headline, landmark is used as an adjective to mean that something is so important that it might cause a dramatic change.
Okay, so the headline is suggesting that COP27 might be a landmark conference, a point where an important change is made. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And this adjective landmark is often put together with words like event, decision, or day. So, for example, if we think about when women first got the right to vote, this was a landmark event. It was very important for women's rights.
And can we use any other words or vocabulary to describe a similar thing?
Yeah, we could say that something is a turning point or a milestone, for example.
Okay, let's have a look at that one more time. Let's have a look at our next headline.
This is from The Guardian. Greta Thunberg to skip greenwashing COP27 climate summit in Egypt.
Okay, so Greta Thunberg, the very famous young Swedish climate activist, is going to skip the COP27 climate conference. That means she's not going to attend because she thinks it's an example of greenwashing. And greenwashing is the word we're looking at. Well, I know the word green and I know the word washing, but what's the sense?
Well, imagine a company that sells something bad for the environment, like a plastic bottle, but they cover it with a green label that symbolises being environmentally friendly. It might have nice pictures of forests on it, and it has words like organic and natural ingredients and recyclable.
Okay, so you're saying this bottle looks like it's really good for the environment, but actually it's just a plastic bottle and plastic isn't very good. So we're saying it's just marketing.
Exactly, yeah. This is greenwashing, and it is just a marketing approach that basically makes it look like an organisation is helping the planet, and that makes the customer want to buy the product. They want to help the planet too, but actually it's not really helping at all.
Right, so in this headline we see that Greta Thunberg thinks that COP27 is an example of greenwashing. She thinks that actually they are not taking it seriously, they just want people to think they are.
Yeah, that's right. And the headline uses the adjective greenwashing. It describes the event, in this case the conference, but we can also use greenwash as a verb. So that is the action of making something look more environmentally friendly than it actually is.
And a related idea and word is sports washing. That means when an organisation or a country hosts or supports a sporting event to try and make themselves look better. Let's take a look at that again. Let's look at our next headline.
This one comes from Inside Climate News. Ahead of COP27, new climate reports are warning shots to a world off course.
The headline says that the world is off course. That means going in the wrong direction, metaphorically, to reach those climate targets. And we are looking at the expression warning shots. It's got something to do with guns, hasn't it?
Yeah, so literally in war, one side might fire a shot in the air or it might come from a cannon. And this is saying, we are here, prepare yourself. It is a warning. But in the headline, it's used metaphorically. There's actually no guns here.
That's right. So these new scientific reports say that unless we stay within that 1.5 degree limit, something really bad is going to happen.
Exactly. It is a warning shot to the world. And in this case, that bad thing that would happen is the climate would collapse.
Now, the expression warning shot is used very frequently in news media, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So it sounds very dramatic and it creates a really powerful image in the mind of the reader, and that helps them remember the story a little bit more.
Yeah, let's have a look at that one more time. We've had Landmark, an important event that could cause big changes.
Greenwashing. Companies say it's environmentally friendly, but is it really?
And warning shots, signals that show action is needed.
Don't forget, there's a quiz on our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.
Have you ever quit your job because of a bad boss? New research says you're not alone. This is News Review from BBC Learning English. I'm Beth.
And I'm Phil. Make sure you watch to the end to learn the vocabulary that you need to talk about this story.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and try the quiz on our website. Now, today's story.
Bad bosses make people quit. Almost a third of British workers in a recent study say that they've left a job because of their manager. Nearly a fifth of people say that their managers were ineffective. Unhappiness with management means workers are less likely to be motivated and less likely to stay. The survey also shows that most bosses are accidental managers, having never been taught how to run a team.
You've been looking at the headlines, Phil. What's the vocabulary?
We have prompted, formal, and attrition.
This is News Review from BBC Learning English. Let's have a look at our first headline.
Yes, this is from The Guardian. Bad management has prompted 1 in 3 UK workers to quit, survey finds.
As this headline says, a third of British workers have quit because of bad management. We're going to learn about the word prompt. Phil, what's the connection between bad managers and people leaving their jobs?
Well, it's quite simple. One thing causes something else to happen. It prompts it to happen. So having a manager who's not very good might prompt you to leave your job. If you see another job advertised with a really high salary, that might prompt you to apply for that job.
Yeah, that's one meaning. And I remember when I was studying for exams, I used prompt cards. I would write information on them to try and help me remember.
Yes, we call them prompt cards because they prompt you to do something. They prompt you to remember. In fact, you could say they prompt your memory. And actually, Beth, what's that you've got in your hand?
It's my script. You have one too. And if I forget what I'm going to say, I can look down and it prompts me. Okay, let's look at that again. And remember to make some notes to prompt your memory in the future. Let's have our next headline.
This is from Fortune. Nearly all bosses are accidental with no formal training, and research shows it's leading 1 in 3 workers to quit.
This headline is about accidental managers and how they can lead people to leave their jobs. We're going to learn about the word formal. Now, Phil, I know formal language, like putting yours sincerely at the end of a letter. Formal dress might be a suit or something like that, but what do we mean here?
Well, we're talking about formal training, but it's related to all those examples you've just given. If you're using formal language, there are rules and you have to follow them. If you want to dress formally, then you need to follow the rules. And formal training is officially organised, so there are rules to follow, and there's probably an exam at the end of it as well.
Okay, so my university degree and my teaching qualifications were formal training. I had to follow the rules, do exams and assignments. But can we have informal training like we have informal language and informal dress?
Yeah, of course. Think about all the things that you've learnt without having to do a course. Maybe you taught yourself, or maybe you asked someone to help you. Beth, is there anything that you've learnt to do informally?
I suppose I learnt to sing, I learnt to cook. That's all informal training. I suppose you could say that learning English on our website is informal training. Okay, let's look at that again. Next headline, please.
This is from Personnel Today. Accidental managers are driving attrition.
Now we're going to learn the word attrition. To me, Phil, this sounds like something quite bad or negative. And here we're talking about managers. So does it have a business meaning?
Well, there are a few meanings. None of them are good, and there is a business meaning. Beth, what would happen to a company if lots of people left and they didn't get replaced?
It'll get smaller. I suppose that means the company can't do as much.
And that's the meaning that we're using in this headline. The business meaning of attrition is that companies get smaller as people leave and they're not replaced.
Okay, so can we use attrition outside of a business context?
Yeah, there is a more general meaning, and it means to make something gradually weaker by continually attacking it or causing it problems. And in fact, we have this phrase, a war of attrition, which is a long disagreement or conflict where each side is always making the other side more angry.
That sounds like my neighbours. They are always arguing about one thing or another. It's become a real war of attrition. Okay, let's look at that again. We've had prompted, made something happen.
Formal, according to the rules.
And attrition, gradually getting weaker.
Now, if you're interested in problems at work, check out this episode of 6 Minute English all about being unhappy at work. Click here to watch.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel by clicking here so you never miss another video. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Як називати англійською military units and formations у Збройних силах України? Як правильно a squad або a section? Які слова та вислови потрібні, щоб розповісти про різні підрозділи, їхній склад, підпорядкування та особливості? Я Олена Чекрижова, вчителька. Це армійська англійська. Ютуб-канал, що наближає українське військо до мовних стандартів НАТО. І сьогодні розберемося, як називати англійською військові підрозділи наших Збройних сил. Нагадаю вам, що за планом Генштабу до 2026 року всі українські військові мають якимось чином заговорити англійською. Поки що говорять не всі. І коли я викладаю групам військовослужбовців, я помічаю, що інколи військовослужбовці не володіють навіть базовою лексикою, як, наприклад, назви військових підрозділів. Тож починати вивчати англійську варто просто зараз. Можна з наших уроків. І в одному з перших відео на каналі я вже розповідала вам про структуру британських збройних сил. Ми розбирали, як називаються різні підрозділи та формування. І якщо ви з нами з самого початку, то, скоріш за все, ви бачили це відео. Якщо не бачили, то передивіться. До того ж, лексика сьогоднішнього уроку буде дуже схожою. Також вам обов'язково стане в пригоді лексика з уроку «Як розповідати про підрозділ англійською», щоб ви могли не тільки називати, але й сказати пару слів про підрозділ, де служите. Ключовим словом сьогодні буде слово «unit». У військовому контексті воно має декілька значень. Військове угрупування, підрозділ, військова частина та з'єднання. Українські збройні сили мають такі підрозділи. A fire group або a fire team – вогнева група. Consists of 2 to 4 soldiers – складається з 2-4 військових. A fire group або a fire team – це the smallest irregular tactical unit within a squad or section. Це найменший позаштатний тактичний підрозділ у складі відділення. That doesn't have a regular commander, що не має штатного командира. Командира групи можна назвати a leader. Відділення – a squad, американська назва, a section – британська назва. Consists of 9 to 15 soldiers. Налічує від 9 до 15 військових. A squad or a section is the smallest regular tactical unit that has a regular commander. Є найменшим штатним тактичним підрозділом, що має штатного командира. A squad or a section is usually part of a platoon. Зазвичай входить до складу взводу. But can exist beyond a platoon. Але може існувати й поза межами взводу. Командиром відділення зазвичай є сержант, sergeant. У танкових військах та авіації відділенню відповідає екіпаж танка, літака або вертольота – tank, plane or helicopter crew. В артилерії це обслуга гармати – gun crew. A platoon – взвод – consists of 2 to 4 sections. A platoon is the main combined arms tactical unit in the infantry of the land forces. Є основним загальновійськовим тактичним підрозділом у піхоті сухопутних військ, which performs tactical tasks, що призначений для виконання тактичних завдань. A platoon is part of a company, входить до складу роти, or a battery, батареї, or a squadron, ескадрильї. Взводи бувають механізовані, mechanized, аеромобільні, airmobile, артилерійські, artillery, мінометні, mortar, зенітні, anti-aircraft, протитанкові, anti-tank, розвідувальні, reconnaissance, інженерні, engineering, зв'язку, communications, управління, command, медичні, medical, господарські, logistical, забезпечення, supply, обслуговування, service тощо. A company – рота або a battery in artillery – в артилерії батарея, a squadron in aviation – ескадрилья в авіації, consists of 80 to 200 soldiers. A company usually consists of several platoons. Зазвичай складається з декількох взводів. Is part of a battalion. Входить до складу батальйону. Sometimes a company exists as an independent separate formation. Іноді рота існує як самостійне окреме формування. Рота може бути mechanized – механізована, tank – танкова, missile – ракетна, artillery – артилерійська, mortar – мінометна, radar – радіотехнічна, saper – саперна, automotive – автомобільна, assault – штурмова, rifle – стрілецька тощо. A battalion – батальйон consists of 300 to 800 soldiers and has several companies. A battalion is the main tactical unit in the land forces. Є основним тактичним підрозділом у сухопутних військах. A battalion is a part of a regiment or a brigade. Батальйон входить до складу полку або бригади. Механізований батальйон складається з A mechanized battalion consists of командування, command, штабу, staff, кількох рот, several companies, підрозділів вогневої підтримки, fire support units, протитанкових підрозділів, anti-tank units, підрозділів зв'язку, communication units, підрозділів технічного обслуговування, technical maintenance units, підрозділів постачання, supply units та медичного пункту, a medical point. A tank battalion comprises – у складі танкового батальйону є several tank companies – кілька танкових рот, and units of combat support – та підрозділи бойової підтримки. An artillery division consists of – артилерійський дивізіон складається з командування, command, штабу, staff, кількох артилерійських батарей, several artillery batteries, і підрозділів бойового забезпечення, combat support units, тилового та технічного обслуговування, rear and technical services. A regiment, polk, consists of 900 to 1,500 soldiers. A regiment is the main and largest technical military unit in the land forces, the air assault forces, and the navy. Є основним і найбільшим тактичним військовим з'єднанням у сухопутних військах ДШВ та ВМС. In most cases, переважно, a regiment is a part of a unit, a division or a brigade. Полк входить до складу з'єднання, дивізії або бригади. But some regiments are directly subordinate, але деякі полки безпосередньо підпорядковуються to the high command – головному командуванню. Залежно від роду військ або сил, a regiment can conduct general combat, anti-aircraft, airborne combat or support combat operations. Може вести загальновійськовий, протиповітряний, повітряний бій або забезпечувати бойові дії. Typically, it consists of command – управління, several battalions, divisions, декількох батальйонів або дивізіонів, units of combat, technical, rear and medical support, підрозділів бойового, технічного, тилового та медичного забезпечення. A brigade, бригада, consists of 1,000 to 8,000 soldiers. A brigade is the main and the largest tactical military unit in the land forces, the air assault force and the navy. Є основним і найбільшим тактичним військовим з'єднанням у сухопутних військах, ДШВ та ВМС. In most cases, a brigade is a separate unit. У більшості випадків бригада становить окрему одиницю subordinate to an operational command, що підпорядковується оперативному командуванню. A brigade is designed to perform tactical tasks, призначена для виконання тактичних завдань as part of army corps or independently, у складі армійських корпусів або самостійно, in cooperation with units and elements of other branches of the military and special forces, у взаємодії зі з'єднаннями та частинами інших родів військ і спеціальних військ, with aviation, з авіацією, and in coastal directions, на приморських напрямках, with naval forces, із силами флоту. In the land forces, у сухопутних військах, a brigade consists of headquarters, штабу, command, управління, several battalions, divisions of the basic branches of the military, з декількох батальйонів, дивізіонів основних родів військ, special forces units and rear units, підрозділів спеціальних військ і тилових підрозділів. Згадаю в цьому уроці також корпус, a corps. A corps is a combined arms operational tactical unit or a union – загальновійськове оперативно-тактичне з'єднання чи об'єднання of permanent or temporary troops – військ постійного або тимчасового складу. In wartime, a corps acts as a part of the army or independently. У воєнний час діє в складі армії або самостійно. Зверніть увагу на написання та вимову слова corps. Не путайте його з corpse – мертве тіло, corpus – корпус, збірка або core – ядро, серцевина. Множина від core – cores – пишеться так само, але вимовляється із закінченням cores. Повторюємо основні поняття цього уроку. Вогнева група англійською – це a fire team. Відділення – section або squad. Взвод – platoon. Рота – company. Батальйон – battalion. Полк – regiment. Бригада – brigade. Корпус – corps, штаб – headquarters, з'єднання, підрозділ, військова частина – unit, тилові підрозділи rear units. Отже, друзі, сьогодні ми розібрали назви, склад, чисельність та особливості військових формувань та підрозділів Збройних сил України. Ця інформація вам точно знадобиться. І не тільки вам, а й вашим колегам і знайомим. І всім українським військовим, які вивчають Military English. Поділіться з ними цим відео, а також порекомендуйте наш канал і самі не забудьте підписатися. Щоб отримувати більше корисного контенту з військової англійської, приєднуйтесь до нашого інстаграму та телеграму. А матеріали для уроку у вигляді файлів будуть доступні для тих, хто є нашими меценатами і підтримує наш проєкт регулярними благодійними внесками. Якщо ви вважаєте, що те, що ми робимо, корисно, підтримайте нас, щоб ми могли продовжувати робити те, що робимо. Посилання в описі до відео. Це армійська англійська. Перший YouTube-канал з мовної підготовки для українського війська. Я Олена Чекрижова, вчителька, і я переконана, що дуже скоро у кожному відділенні, взводі, роті, батальйоні, бригаді заговорять in English.
Officials in Tanzania say at least 47 people were killed and 85 more injured in flooding and landslides in the country's north. Indonesia says rescuers have found the remains of 11 climbers following the burst of the Mount Merapi volcano in West Sumatra. 12 other climbers are missing. In Venezuela, voters approve a proposal to claim rule over territory disputed with neighboring Guyana. And in Uganda, a 70-year-old woman gives birth to twins at a hospital in the capital, Kampala, making her one of the world's oldest new mothers.
Fake news. Fake news.
Hello, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Sam.
Welcome to Fake News, Fact and Fiction from BBC Learning English. In this series, we're looking at the fake news phenomenon, what it is, where it comes from, and how we can fight it.
Yes, and we're also looking at the language and vocabulary around fake news, so words and expressions that you might hear or want to use when discussing this hot topic.
And in the program today, how social media has changed the fake news landscape.
And I'll be giving you some news about news.
We'll also try to understand what fake news is and what it isn't. Now, Sam, last time you talked about the word fake. What have you got for us today?
Yeah, so today I'm talking about the word news. So where do you think that word comes from, Hugo?
It may be an acronym, like the first letters from north, east, west, and south, like the points of the compass.
Very good. That's a good guess, and you're not alone in thinking that, but let's find out if you're right. Here's something I recorded earlier. News, news, news. News is all around me. Wherever you get yours from, where does the word itself come from? Is it an acronym for North, East, West, and South? No. Does it stand for notable events, weather, and sports? Nope again. Does it simply mean things that are new? Yes. It comes from the late 1300s from the French word nouvelle. News is simply new information about something that has happened. It's unusual in English because the word new is an adjective, but news is not an adjective. It's a noun, an uncountable noun. And even though it has an S, it's singular. So news is good or bad. We have several expressions in English using the word news. For example, no news is good news, which basically means if you haven't heard anything, there are no problems. That's news to me. I didn't know that. Breaking news, new news, something very important that has recently happened. And if you break the news, you are the person who passes the news on. But if you do break the news, make sure it's not fake news.
That's really interesting, and a lot of that was news to me.
Ah, very good, Hugo. I see what you did there.
And what about you, Sam? What do you get your news from?
Honestly, truly, I mostly get it from the BBC News app.
That goes without saying.
Obviously.
Yeah. I also get my news from the BBC, but I find it really important to get news from different sources, because you can always get different voices and different takes on what is happening. So we know about the word fake and the word news. Put them together and you get fake news. But what does it actually mean? Here's the BBC's media editor, Amal Rajan.
Fake news is lies and propaganda told for a political or commercial purpose which deploys digital technology, social media, new networks to go viral, to reach around the world and influence millions of people very, very quickly.
So fake news is information that isn't true, and the reason might be political or commercial, to change opinion or make money.
Yes, so I'd like to talk about one of the words that Amal used, the word propaganda. So this comes up a lot when talking about this topic. And let's just check that we know what it means before we move forward. So propaganda is a noun, and it describes information which is put out for political reasons, to get support for a political party or a political cause. And it's designed to promote a particular agenda, so to persuade people to think a particular way or make people support a particular policy. Propaganda isn't always completely fake, but it's often very one-sided and unbalanced and may mix lies and the truth. So I guess that's one of the challenges of being a journalist, Hugo, is making sure that you can actually determine what is true and what isn't.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, and it's not made easier by social media. Amal mentioned that digital technologies and social media are tools used to spread fake news. But what is the problem here? Let's get more about that. So earlier, we put some questions to today's expert guest.
Hi, my name is Samantha Bradshaw. I'm a researcher at the Oxford Internet Institute, and I study how disinformation affects democracy. Fake news has been around for as long as we've had the printing press, so there's nothing necessarily new about fake news. The ways in which digital technologies can enhance the spread and the precision of these kinds of stories is something that is new. So fake news on social media can spread much more quickly and to many more people because the flow of information is very free compared to in the past where we had journalists, editors, TV channels controlling the flow of information and what would or would not get published. Today, anybody with a keyboard can essentially be a publisher.
Lots of interesting stuff there.
Yes, so the first thing I noticed is that she used the word disinformation. And that is often used to describe kinds of fake news or false information that is deliberately published and spread. She also made the point that fake news, as we know, is not new, but it's always been around. But with social media and the digital world, it's allowed to spread further and faster, and without it being controlled by traditional broadcasters and publishers. So now, I know there's a problem there, obviously, but doesn't this also mean that there's now a bit more of a democracy of information? Isn't it a good thing that we don't only have these traditional sources, particularly if those sources are government run or run by one particularly powerful individual?
That's a very good point, because if you remember what happened during the Arab Spring in the Middle East, or even protests in Iran and in many other countries around the world, social media gave people a very important tool to express themselves. And, well, basically, journalists got to know what was happening because of that.
Because they weren't allowed in the country in some cases.
Absolutely. The difference here is that maybe those people who are publishing these, this kind of information, they don't go through all the checks that we, working for mainstream media or traditional news organizations, have to go through, which is we interview people, we check the facts, we recheck the facts to make sure that everything is accurate. And of course, we make mistakes, but when we do, we acknowledge them and correct them.
Yeah. And also, as Samantha said, anyone can be a publisher. So there's lots of people out there sharing stories, putting stories out onto social media, but they may not have the knowledge or the resources to check whether those are real stories. And therefore, some of the stuff out there might be inaccurate. It hasn't been checked by anyone.
Yeah, there's a famous saying which goes, a lie can get halfway around the world before the truth has got its pants on. Well, I think these days a lie can get all the way around the world before the truth has even woken up. And what makes it even more challenging is when people are being told not to trust mainstream media.
Yeah. Is this what you mean? Let's have a look.
It's totally fake news. Fake news. Fake news! You are fake news. It was fake news. Thank you.
Yes, the American president gets a lot of criticism from mainstream media. He sees that as being an unfair attack on him. He uses the phrase fake news when talking about news that he doesn't like, that he doesn't find convenient. And when one of the most powerful politicians in the world accuses the mainstream media of being fake news, that's a problem. Here's Amal again.
A lot of politicians or people in the public eye have started to use the word fake news or the phrase fake news to basically describe news that they don't like. If you're a politician who wants to close down debate, then you might use the phrase fake news because you don't want people to ask you questions about something uncomfortable. So it's really important that we're clear about what fake news does and doesn't mean.
So it seems that the most famous user of the phrase fake news, perhaps the person who's made it as famous a saying as it is, actually uses it to mean something completely different from the rest of us.
Indeed. Well, to be clear, when we're talking about fake news, we mean false information, information that is not true or not correct, but which is published and shared, particularly on social media. Well, it's about time we wrapped up this program. Sam, remind us of some of today's key vocabulary.
Absolutely, of course. So we learned that the word news comes from the French word nouvelle, and although it has an S at the end, it is not plural, it's an uncountable noun, so it's always singular. We can say, that's news to me, if we find something out that we didn't know before. No news is good news is an expression which means that the lack of news probably means everything's fine, everything's okay, because if something bad had happened, we probably would have been told. Breaking news is new news, so something important. And to break the news is to be the person who gives the information to someone. Propaganda is political information, which could be false or very one-sided information. And then we also had disinformation, which is a term for false news, false stories that are spread deliberately. Mainstream media refers to traditional and established news broadcasters and publishers, just like the BBC, for example.
Thank you, Sam. And thank you for watching. Do join us again next time for Fake News, Fact and Fiction. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Could plastic-eating worms help the world's pollution crisis? This is News Review from BBC Learning English. I'm Neil.
And I'm Beth. Make sure you watch to the end to learn vocabulary to talk about this story.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and try the quiz on our website. Now it's time for the story.
Getting rid of plastic with worm spit. Spanish scientists have discovered something in waxworms' saliva which helps them eat plastic. It's hoped the breakthrough will be an effective and natural way of reducing plastic pollution. One researcher suggests in the future, plastic-eating worm kits could be used in the home.
You've been looking at the headlines, Beth. What's the vocabulary?
We have gobbling, lowly, and humble.
This is News Review from BBC Learning English. Let's have a look at our first headline.
This one is from France 24. Plastic gobbling enzymes in worm spit may help ease pollution.
And so the headline is saying something useful has been found in the spit of a certain kind of worm. And it's the enzyme in the spit. Enzymes are things that help chemical processes happen more quickly. In this case, destroying plastic. But the word that we're interested in is gobbling. And gobbling is a word connected to the noise a turkey makes.
Yes, you're right. So when a turkey gets its food, it eats very quickly and loudly, and we say this is gobble. So the headline writer has turned this into an adjective, just like the noise gobble gobble, and then we've got a new word, plastic gobbling.
Gobble is a funny word in English because it sounds like the thing it is describing, and we have a lot of words like that. For example, what noise does a cat make?
Meow.
Okay, so the noise is like that, and the word to describe that is meow. What about chickens?
Cluck cluck.
Okay, chickens make a cluck cluck noise, and the word we write down and say is cluck.
Yeah, so the headline makes you imagine a worm noisily eating plastic, just like a turkey gobbling it. Now, of course, this is an exaggeration, but it's quite entertaining and it gives you a strong mental image.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of other words connected to eating and the noise involved?
Yes, so we have gulp.
Okay, so that is gulp.
And that is about eating food and drinking quickly and loudly. And then we also have guzzle, but that's only really used for drink.
Yeah, and we have a word not connected to sound, but it's got an animal in it. To wolf something down means to eat it really quickly. Let's take a look at that one more time. Let's take a look at our next headline.
This one is from Reuters. Lowly waxworm saliva may boost fight against plastic pollution.
The headline is saying that the saliva, that's the spit, another word for spit, of this certain kind of worm might boost, that means help, the attempt to reduce plastic. But the word we're looking at is lowly. What can you tell us about lowly?
Well, there's a clue in this word lowly, low, and it means low in position or importance. So, for example, Neil, when I started in my career, I wasn't presenting news review for the BBC. I was in a lowly position.
Okay, so you mean that you feel that the job you were doing wasn't as important as the one you're doing now. It was lower.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Now, we have heard that this worm is actually really important. It's eating plastic. So why are we calling it lowly?
Well, waxworms aren't really high up in the animal kingdom. They're a little bit dirty. Most people think of them as pests and they don't really like them.
And so the headline writer uses the word lowly because even though this worm doesn't seem that important, it's actually doing a really important job. Now, do we use this word much in our everyday English?
Well, yeah, when we use it, it's always in a humorous way. We're kind of saying the thing we're doing isn't very important. Like I used to just be a lowly tea maker in the office.
Ah, well, you call yourself lowly, but just like the worm, you're performing a really important task. Everybody loves tea. It may not be the most glamorous job in the world, but it is very important. Okay, let's look at that again. Let's take a look at our next headline.
This one is from the BBC. Humble worm saliva can break down tough plastic.
And so the headline is saying the saliva of this type of worm, this wax worm, can break down, which means destroy, certain types of plastic, tough plastics, ones that are difficult to break down, difficult to destroy. We have another adjective that we're looking at, which is humble. What can you tell us about humble?
So humble can have the same meaning as lowly, meaning ordinary or not important, but it has another meaning too. So it can describe a person who isn't proud or doesn't believe that they're important, even if they are. So imagine someone wins an award, they get on stage to give their speech and they say, "This isn't for me, it's for everyone else. Thank you, everyone who helped me." They are humble.
Ah, what a humble person. And it's a positive thing to say about someone, isn't it? So in this headline, using humble about this worm is a positive thing.
Exactly, because even though this worm maybe looks just like a worm, it's really special and important. It has plastic eating abilities.
Okay, let's look at that again. We've had gobbling, eating quickly and loudly, like a turkey.
Lowly, low in position and importance.
And humble, not proud, but often important.
Don't forget, there's a quiz on our website at bbclearningenglish.com.
Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.
Bye.
Як сказати англійською вибухова хвиля, розтяжка, детонатор, елемент запобігання знешкодженню міни? Яка лексика знадобиться, щоб описати різні типи протипіхотних та протитанкових мін? Я Олена Чекрижова, вчителька. Це канал «Армійська англійська», перший в Україні канал зі спеціалізованої військової англійської. І в цьому уроці ми говоримо про landmines, які вони бувають та як розповідати англійською про їхні особливості та спосіб дії. A landmine пишеться разом або окремо. Is an explosive weapon, an encased explosive charge, вибуховий заряд, розміщений у контейнері, buried below або concealed under, захований під, or camouflage on the ground, замаскований на землі. They are designed to destroy or disable enemy targets. Вони створені, щоб знищувати або знешкоджувати ворожі цілі. Ranging from combatants to vehicles and tanks as they pass over, коли вони пересуваються повз or near a mine або біля міни. A landmine may cause damage може спричинити пошкодження by direct blast effect прямою дією вибухової ударної хвилі, by fragments уламками that are thrown by the blast, які розкидаються хвилею, або і тим, і тим. Landmines are typically laid throughout an area. Закладаються на всій території, creating a minefield – мінне поле. Такий пристрій is detonated automatically by way of pressure – автоматично за допомогою тиску. When a target steps on it – наступає на нього, or drives over it – проїжджає над ним. Крім того, a landmine can be triggered by other detonation mechanisms – movement, sound, magnetism and vibration. Для детонації також використовують tripwires – дротяні нитки-розтяжки та remote control – дистанційне керування. A person who detonates a mine by remote control називається triggerman. Міна, яка активується, коли на неї наступають, when it is stepped on, наїжджають, driven over, ударяють, struck, називається victim activated. Anti-handling device – це елемент запобігання знешкодженню міни. Його функція – to prevent the clearing of mines – запобігати розмінуванню. There are two main categories of landmines – anti-personnel and anti-vehicle – протипіхотні та протитанкові. Розглянемо основну лексику, яка допоможе розповідати про ці міни англійською. Anti-personnel mines також позначають абревіатурою APM. Anti-personnel blast mines – протипіхотні міни фугасної дії, які вибухають на рівні ніг жертви. The casing of blast mines – корпус цих мін may be made of metal, wood or plastic. Міни цього типу, наприклад, міну пелюстка, яку в англійській називають green parrot or butterfly mine, можуть встановлювати remotely, віддалено, using a rocket salvo system, за допомогою реактивної системи залпового вогню. Directional fragmentation mines – це осколкові міни спрямованої дії, які propel pieces of metal shrapnel у того, хто її активував. Такі міни are usually triggered by tripwires, і вони часто використовуються in ambush situations, у засідках. Bounding fragmentation mines – це осколкові міни, що підстрибують та вибухають у повітрі. Вони містять a small charge – малий заряд, що піднімає міну into the air, та the main charge, який explodes – scattering fragments at about waist level, розкидуючи осколки на рівні пояса людини. Anti-vehicle mines, AVM, or anti-tank mines, ATM, are designed to damage or destroy vehicles, including tanks and armored fighting vehicles. Нагадаю, що ми вже говорили про armored vehicles, броньовані машини, у кількох відеоуроках, посилання на які ви знайдете в описі до цього відео. Anti-tank mines, як правило, мають a much larger explosive charge – набагато більший вибуховий заряд, ніж AP mines. And a fuse – підривник, детонатор, що є triggered, приводиться в дію by vehicles or remotely. Сучасні anti-vehicle mines використовують a magnetic trigger. Advanced mines здатні розпізнавати the difference between friendly and enemy types of vehicles. У зв'язку з агресією Росії проти України є велика ймовірність виявлення вибухонебезпечних предметів не тільки в регіонах, де ведуться активні бойові дії, а й на всій території держави. У наступних уроках ми розглянемо лексику з теми розмінування – mine clearing. Щоб не пропустити цю тему, ви знаєте, що робити. Підпишіться на цей канал, якщо ви все ще цього не зробили, та поставте дзвіночок, щоб отримувати нагадування про нові відео. Якщо ви вже підписані і регулярно дивитесь цей курс, хочете долучитися або підтримати нас, щоб допомогти команді армійської, англійської створювати ще більше освітніх матеріалів для українських військових, уся інформація про те, як це зробити, є в описі до цього відео. А я, Олена Чекрежова, вчителька, вдячна вам за увагу та підтримку. Ваші підписки, вподобайки та коментарі допомагають нам просувати наш соціальний освітній продукт на каналі Армійська Англійська та здійснювати мовну підготовку українських Збройних сил.
Frequent flying, big houses, and luxury lifestyles. The world's richest are damaging the planet more than any other group of people. This is News Review from BBC Learning English, where we help you understand news headlines in English. I'm Neil.
And I'm Beth. Make sure you watch to the end to learn all the vocabulary you need to talk about this story.
And to understand more about the world in English, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Now the story.
The richest 1% of people create the same amount of carbon as the poorest 2/3 in the world. That's according to data published in a new report by charity Oxfam. It found that the lifestyles of the wealthy, such as taking frequent flights and eating out in restaurants, are closely connected to climate change. Oxfam's chief called for world leaders to end the era of extreme wealth.
You've been looking at the headlines, Beth. What's the vocabulary people need to understand this story in English?
We have well off, plundering, and clean up their acts.
This is News Review from BBC Learning English. Let's have a look at our first headline.
This is from The Guardian. Restaurants, pets and holidays. How UK's well-off have outsized carbon footprints.
So this headline is saying that the UK's well-off have outsized carbon footprints. Outsized means too big, and your carbon footprint is the impact you have personally on the environment. But we are looking at the word well-off.
We are, and well-off means rich, and it's an adjective. It might look like a phrasal verb because it has two parts, and that second part is off, but it's an adjective.
Now, this headline says that the well-off, that's the rich and wealthy, are having a worse impact on the environment. We have these words, rich and wealthy, already. So why do we need well-off? What's the difference?
Well, it's a bit softer, and it sounds more polite than rich, which isn't always a positive thing. And a similar but even softer way of saying well off is comfortable. That's a word you already know, but it's a slightly different meaning here.
Yes, and then the other extreme is this word loaded. It means extremely well off, extremely rich, and it's not that polite. It's very direct. Let's look at that again. Let's have our next headline.
This is from the Washington Post. World's richest 1% plundering the planet, Oxfam report says.
We're looking at the word plundering. Now, Beth, when I hear this word plundering, I think of thieves or pirates stealing things, treasure.
Well, yeah, that's right. The literal meaning of plunder is taking things that don't belong to you by force. Now, in this headline, the richest are plundering the planet. So, Neil, does that mean that the richest are stealing things by force?
Well, not exactly, but by choosing the word plunder, the writer is suggesting that what the rich are doing is wrong. The sense is that they are using resources that actually should be shared more equally amongst people. And that word plunder they actually took from the Oxfam report to support their opinion. What other words for steal can we use?
Well, there's nick and pinch. They're both a bit informal though. Has anyone ever nicked your phone?
No, nobody has ever nicked my phone, but it looks like someone is trying to pinch my wallet, Beth. Let's look at that again. Let's have our next headline.
This is from the Herald. USAF urged to use budget for richest Scots to clean up their acts.
So campaigners in Scotland want the richest to clean up their act, and clean up their act is the expression that we're looking at. This word act I recognise from the theatre, like Shakespeare. To be or not to be.
No, stop. That's not the act we're talking about here. Here, act means behaviour, and clean up your act means make your behaviour better, improve it.
Yes, and although the expression has the word clean in it, it's not really about cleaning. It means to improve.
So the campaigners want the rich.
So the campaigners want the rich to do better when it comes to climate change.
I was going to say that. That's my line. You need to clean up your act.
I really do. Let's look at that again. We've had well-off, rich,
Plundering, taking what doesn't belong to you.
and clean up their acts, improve their behaviour.
Now, if you enjoyed this episode and want to learn more about this topic, watch this episode of News Review where we asked, can flying ever be green?
And click here to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another video.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Fake news.
Hello, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Sam.
Welcome to Fake News, Fact and Fiction from BBC Learning English. In this series, we're looking at a topic that's on the tip of everyone's tongues, fake news.
Yes, fake news. We'll find out what it is and what it isn't.
We'll look at where it comes from and how it can be dangerous.
And we'll also show you how you can become a fake news detective with tips and suggestions for developing your critical thinking skills.
We're starting today with the look at the word fake itself. What does it actually mean and how do we use it? Over to you, Sam.
Okay, well, actually, thank you, Hugo. I want to show you something I prepared earlier, so it's really over to me, Sam. So what do we know about the word fake? The word fake is first recorded in the late 18th century. It's slang used by criminals in London with meanings connected to their illegal activities. Today, it can be an adjective, a noun, or a verb, and is used when talking about things that are not real, not genuine, but are designed to make people think that they are real or are genuine. So where do we see this word? The news is full of stories of fakes. Fake works of art, fake concert tickets, fake documents, and fake qualifications, to name only a few. In some places, you can buy fake designer goods, either knowingly or unknowingly. However, those looking for a bargain could end up with dangerous fake goods or even fake medicines. All these kinds of fakes can be called counterfeit. Being fake isn't always for criminal reasons, though. People and how they act can be called fake too, like smiling, laughing, being injured, and even
Yes.
not confident but want to ace that job interview, fake it till you make it. And sometimes what is fake is more ethical. For example, if you wear fur, is it real or fake? Fake fur is regarded to be more ethical, so much so that real fur is sometimes labeled as fake. So knowing what is real and what is fake and what is fake can be tricky. How do we choose what to buy, where to go, even where to stay? Many of us look at reviews online, but even then we have to watch out for fakes. The digital world of social media and the internet are places where it can be very difficult to tell what is fake and what is real. And that brings us to perhaps the most common phrase associated with the word fake these days.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news. Do you hear what I'm saying?
There's something different here.
Yes, so obviously those were fake ears. And that's a fake laugh, but it's a comedy classic, fake ears, really just to demonstrate that not everything fake is bad.
And can I say that laugh was a counterfeit laugh?
That's a really good question, actually, but no. So we use the word counterfeit to describe real objects, real things that are fake. So for example, documents, money, paintings, jewelry, they can all be counterfeit, but a laugh, no matter how fake or false, is not counterfeit, no.
And have you had any experience with fake things?
So I did have a friend who was setting up his own business, and he did ask me to write him a fake review online.
What happened?
No comment. What about you?
I haven't bought anything fake or counterfeit, but I think we've seeing, fake T-shirts, fake shoes, bags,
Really
pretty much
common.
everywhere, right? But now let's turn to fake news itself.
Yeah, so the words fake and news, as we know, have existed separately for a very long time. But as a journalist, Hugo, when did you start seeing them together, being used as a thing?
I think we all became more familiar with it in the 2016 election campaign in the US, because Donald Trump was a big fan of it to essentially dismiss anything he didn't like. But you may be surprised to find out that he wasn't actually the first one to use it. Earlier, I was joined by Mike Wendling from BBC Trending. He's written a piece called The Almost Complete History of Fake News, and he was here to explain more about the recent history of this term. So people may be surprised that Donald Trump wasn't, the first one to use it back in the election in 2016.
No, actually, it was his opponent, Hillary Clinton, who was the first person to utter the words fake news. And she was describing a process by which people were inventing stories and they were going viral on social media. These stories were fake. They were being written. There was a famous example that was uncovered by BuzzFeed, where these stories were being written by people in Macedonia. And those people weren't necessarily interested in Trump or interested in bashing Hillary Clinton. What they were interested in was money. Through Facebook, they could draw people into their websites and then make money off of advertising. And that's why they wrote these sensationalized, completely made up stories that we now have come to know as fake news.
And misinformation, fake news has existed for many, many years, right? But now the difference is social media and how easy it is to, spread this kind of disinformation.
That's right. There's always been mistakes, propaganda, spin, or just lies by political candidates. That has always existed. This is a new type of information and a new type of how information spreads online. And what that means is that it can be spread faster than ever before by people who might be anonymous or might be thousands of kilometers away. So it's really a challenge for media organizations, social media organizations, and really all of us to try and figure out how to separate the truth from the fiction.
And you can find out more about Mike's work on the BBC Trending blog, on the BBC News website, and also on the BBC World Service. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So Sam, what did you make about what Mike was saying there?
I thought it was really, really interesting. And he mentioned words like spin and propaganda, which we are going to talk about more in a later program. But one word I wanted to pick up today was the term viral that he used. So viral is the adjective, and it comes from the noun virus, which, as you know, is a medical term. And as you also know, a virus can spread really, really quickly. So when we use something viral, when we use the term viral, to go viral online, it basically means it spreads really, really quickly across the internet.
We all know about it. Very interesting. Now, before we wrap up for today, Sam, remind us about the word fake.
Okay, absolutely. So fake means not real, it is not genuine, and grammatically the word fake can be a verb. So you can fake a smile, you can fake a laugh, as Hugo did before. You can also fake being confident. It can also be a noun, so a picture is a fake. The diamond ring my grandmother left me was a fake, for example. And it is commonly used as an adjective. So I was talking earlier about the fake review, which I, of course, didn't write. And also, if you're unlucky, you might buy fake tickets for a concert or things like that. If we're talking about fake objects like documents, money, or copies of well-known brands, for example, you can also use the word counterfeit.
Thank you, Sam. And that's all from us today. Do join us again next time on Fake News, Fact and Fiction.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
In the present continuous tense, verbs end in ing. In careful speech, Americans pronounce the G at the end of the verb. However, In fast speech, many Americans do not pronounce the G at the end of the verb. The result sounds like this:
Writin',
doin'.
readin',
Here is an example.
careful speech,
I am reading a book.
fast speech.
I'm reading a book.
Now you try it. Make I am shorter too.
I am recording my show.
I'm recording my show.
Another way Americans shorten words is to put them together. What and are often sound like water. Now you try it.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin meets Bahrain's king and launches an operation to protect shipping in the Red Sea from Houthi rebels in Yemen. The United States and South Korea begin 2 weeks of special operations exercises following North Korea's latest missile launch. In China, a 6.2 magnitude earthquake in Gansu and Qinghai provinces has killed at least 126 people and injured hundreds. And in the U.S. state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott signs a law permitting local judges to expel from the country illegal migrants arrested in Texas.
Afternoon. Afternoon.
Afternoon is the middle part of the day, the part of the day between noon and evening.
Apologize. Apologize.
Apologize means to express regret for doing or saying something wrong.
Before. Before.
Before means at an earlier time.
Evening. Evening.
Evening is the last part of the day and early part of the night.
Job. Job.
A job is the work that a person does regularly in order to earn money.
Later. Later.
Later means happening near the end of a process, activity, series, life, etc.
Light. Light.
A light is a source of light, such as an electric lamp.
Morning. Morning.
Morning is the early part of the day, the time of day from sunrise until noon.
Now. Now.
Now means at the present time.
Studio. Studio.
A studio is the building or room where an artist works.
Surprise. Surprise.
A surprise is an unexpected event or piece of information.
Yesterday. Yesterday.
Yesterday means the day before today.
Times of day.
Today is a new day.
Let's not talk about yesterday.
Now you try it.
Today is a new day. Let's not talk about yesterday. Every day I do my morning show.
Now you try it.
Every day I do my morning show.
Come by this afternoon.
Now you try it.
Come by this afternoon.
I am recording my evening show.
Now you try it.
I am recording my evening show.
Have you ever quit your job because of a bad boss? New research says you're not alone. This is News Review from BBC Learning English. I'm Beth.
And I'm Phil. Make sure you watch to the end to learn the vocabulary that you need to talk about this story.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and try the quiz on our website. Now, today's story.
Bad bosses make people quit. Almost a third of British workers in a recent study say that they've left the job because of their manager. Nearly a fifth of people say that their managers were ineffective. Unhappiness with management means workers are less likely to be motivated and less likely to stay. The survey also shows that most bosses are accidental managers, having never been taught how to run a team.
You've been looking at the headlines, Phil. What's the vocabulary?
We have prompted, formal, and attrition.
This is News Review from BBC Learning English. Let's have a look at our first headline.
Yes, this is from The Guardian. Bad management has prompted 1 in 3 UK workers to quit, survey finds.
As this headline says, a third of British workers have quit because of bad management. We're going to learn about the word prompt. Phil, what's the connection between bad managers and people leaving their jobs?
Well, it's quite simple. One thing causes something else to happen. It prompts it to happen. So having a manager who's not very good might prompt you to leave your job. If you see another job advertised with a really high salary, that might prompt you to apply for that job.
Yeah, that's one meaning. And I remember when I was studying for exams, I used prompt cards. I would write information on them to try and help me remember.
Yes, we call them prompt cards because they prompt you to do something. They prompt you to remember. In fact, you could say they prompt your memory. And actually, Beth, what's that you've got in your hand?
It's my script. You have one too. And if I forget what I'm going to say, I can look down and it prompts me. Okay, let's look at that again. And remember to make some notes to prompt your memory in the future. Let's have our next headline.
This is from Fortune. Nearly all bosses are accidental with no formal training, and research shows it's leading 1 in 3 workers to quit.
This headline is about accidental managers and how they can lead people to leave their jobs. We're going to learn about the word formal. Now, Phil, I know formal language, like putting yours sincerely at the end of a letter. Formal dress might be a suit or something like that, but what do we mean here?
Well, we're talking about formal training, but it's related to all those examples you've just given. If you're using formal language, there are rules and you have to follow them. If you want to dress formally, then you need to follow the rules. And formal training is officially organised, so there are rules to follow, and there's probably an exam at the end of it as well.
Okay, so my university degree and my teaching qualifications were formal training. I had to follow the rules, do exams and assignments. But can we have informal training like we have informal language and informal dress?
Yeah, of course. Think about all of the things that you've learnt without having to do a course. Maybe you taught yourself, or maybe you asked someone to help you. Beth, is there anything that you've learnt to do informally?
I suppose I learnt to sing, I learnt to cook. That's all informal training. I suppose you could say that learning English on our website is informal training. Okay, let's look at that again. Next headline, please.
This is from Personnel Today. Accidental managers are driving attrition.
Now we're going to learn the word attrition. To me, Phil, this sounds like something quite bad or negative. And here we're talking about managers. So does it have a business meaning?
Well, there are a few meanings. None of them are good, and there is a business meaning. Beth, what would happen to a company if lots of people left and they didn't get replaced?
It'll get smaller. I suppose that means the company can't do as much.
And that's the meaning that we're using in this headline. The business meaning of attrition is that companies get smaller as people leave and they're not replaced.
Okay, so can we use attrition outside of a business context?
Yeah, there is a more general meaning, and it means to make something gradually weaker by continually attacking it or causing it problems. And in fact, we have this phrase, a war of attrition, which is a long disagreement or conflict where each side is always making the other side more angry.
That sounds like my neighbours. They are always arguing about one thing or another. It's become a real war of attrition. Okay, let's look at that again. We've had prompted, made something happen.
Formal, according to the rules.
And attrition, gradually getting weaker.
Now, if you're interested in problems at work, check out this episode of 6 Minute English all about being unhappy at work. Click here to watch.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel by clicking here so you never miss another video. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Plastic in the ocean. Could it actually be helping some creatures? This is News Review from BBC Learning English. I'm Neil.
And I'm Sian. Make sure you watch to the end to learn vocabulary about this story.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and try the quiz on our website. Now the story.
The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It doesn't sound like a great place to live. But scientists have discovered coastal creatures making the huge plastic waste island their new home. Researchers say these creatures will now reproduce in larger numbers than before because of the extra space created by the rubbish.
You've been looking at the headlines, Sian. What's the vocabulary?
Okay, we have piggybacks, hitched a ride, and love shack.
This is News Review from BBC Learning English. Let's look at our first headline.
This is from The Hindu. In the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, coastal life piggybacks on plastic trash.
So this headline is saying that coastal life, that's creatures that normally live on the coast, are piggybacking on this island of junk, trash, rubbish, garbage, waste into the middle of the ocean. We are looking at the word piggyback, and there are familiar parts there, pig and back, but what's the connection?
Okay, well, there's no actual connection to pigs. So piggyback is a way of carrying someone on your back like this. So their legs are here and their arms go around your neck. So for example, if my daughter is tired, I give her a piggyback. So it can be a verb or a noun.
Yes, and the headline is talking about these creatures that have used this plastic island as if it was a piggyback to travel. There is another even less literal use and meaning of piggyback. Can you tell us?
Yeah, so we can also use piggyback to describe when someone or something uses